Chapter 1. I lie awake in my motel room on the edge of the city, staring out into darkness and listening to the incessant drip, drip, drip of the leaky showerhead. It is slowly, but surely, driving me insane. Maybe it's not so bad, I tell myself. At least the water's still running. That's more than you can say for the electricity. That's true. After 2 years of this hell, things could be much worse. Then again, they could be a whole lot better. Sometime after midnight, I finally fall asleep, drifting into oblivion as the leaky faucet fades into the background. The sleep is hard-won, but well worth it. Possibly the best I've had in months, which makes it that much more devastating when it ends prematurely. I'm awakened by a low rumble, a thrumming that grows in intensity as if fed by my annoyance, a sound so out of place that in the fog of early wakefulness, I almost don't recognize it. I open my eyes and watch the light from the car's headlamps dance across the ceiling, coming to rest where it meets the eastern wall. The light disappears, and I'm once again met with darkness. I roll over, the cheap pillowcase scratching my neck like sandpaper, and press the button on my watch to turn on the backlight. 3 o'clock. In the fucking morning. The sound of the idling engine continues to vibrate through the thin walls of the motel room, then vanishes. The silence soon broken by the sound of a car door opening, and then a clunk as it slams shut. Footsteps. A single set. Echo around the parking lot, dull on the pavement, then metallic on the single flight of steps, then dull again on the concrete balcony, before finally coming to rest in front of my door. Whoever is standing on the other side of that door is a cop, or at least what passes for a cop these days. I know this not because it was once my job to make such deductive leaps, but because only members of the authority are allowed to drive cars, and even then, only under special circumstances. There are only 2 possible reasons a cop would be at my door. Either I'm under arrest, or someone's been murdered. Well, someone important, that is. And surely they wouldn't just send one man to arrest me. It seems awfully inconsiderate for someone to go and get murdered at this ungodly hour. The knocks come hard and fast.
"Open up, Adrian. I know you're in there."
I recognize the voice immediately. It belongs to Richard Hernandez, one of the more repulsive cops in the authority. He's a brutish bully of a man, tall and broad-chested, but with a gluttonous midsection. He looks a bit like an overstuffed sack of potatoes and has about as much charm. My heart sinks at the prospect of having to deal with him while I'm already exhausted. I consider rolling over, pretending I'm not here, but I know that would be a wasted effort. Where else would I be at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday? Or on any other night for that matter? "I'm coming," I mutter as I crawl out of bed and pad to the door in boxers and bare feet. Fumbling in the dark, I manage to flip the deadbolt and open the door. Moonlight shines down on the side of Hernandez's face. His skin is the color of freshly fired clay, the lines and cracks suggesting too much time spent in the kiln. There's fear in those lines, and it makes me nervous. Men like Hernandez don't spook easily. "Get dressed," he tells me. "We're going for a ride." He doesn't move, just stands in the doorway like a statue reeking of sweat and cigarettes. "Good morning to you too," I say sarcastically. But he doesn't laugh, doesn't even crack a smile. "You mind telling me where we're going?"
"Does it matter?"
"I just want to make sure I'm dressed for the occasion." He smirks and says,
"I'll tell you on the way, if you come peacefully."
"Peacefully?" He shifts from one foot to the other in obvious irritation, the silver star embossed on his left jacket sleeve now pointed in my direction. Intentional or not, the insignia serves as a stark reminder of who's in charge here.
"Come on, Grace, it's 3 a.m. I'm not in the mood for your bullshit. Just get dressed so we can get going."
I shrug and walk over to the closet, dressing in the dim light that passes through the open door and around Hernandez's body. I slip on a mostly clean white t-shirt, faded jeans with a faux leather belt threaded through the loops, and a green army surplus jacket. The jacket, which once fit like a glove, now hangs loosely on my shoulders, while the belt is buckled in the last hole, signs of the toll the rationing has taken on my physique. I'm nowhere near emaciated, mind you, just a little less jolly than I used to be. Hernandez stares at me impatiently as I pull on socks and a pair of tennis shoes and grab a gym bag from the closet shelf. He steps outside, and I do the same, zipping my jacket up halfway. The night air is crisp, a little chilly even, though not nearly as cold as it usually is this late in the year. Even so, it doesn't take a weatherman to tell me that winter will be here soon. A drop in temperature is right around the corner, and the first snow won't be far behind. I follow Hernandez down the stairs and over to the car, a dark blue sedan parked sideways across 2 handicapped spots. There was a time when this would have disgusted me, but given the state of things, I guess it doesn't matter. It's not like anyone else needs to park there. The sight of the car gives me an uneasy feeling, a disquieting ache deep in my bones. I haven't ridden in a car in months, not since the last time the chief asked me to help with an investigation. One of his men had turned up dead, and he wanted answers. Offering me a murder case was like offering heroin to a junkie. I took the case and solved it, though I wish I hadn't been so lucky. Turned out to be some damn kid, not more than 15 or 16, with a crack in his voice and face riddled with acne. The dead cop had caught him stuffing a backpack with canned food at one of the ration depots. But instead of arresting him, he started beating him with his nightstick. He got in a couple of good licks before the kid managed to pull out a knife hidden in his boot. The cop wasn't expecting that, and it was the last mistake he ever made. The chief needed to make an example of the kid, and he did just that. I've had a bad taste in my mouth ever since. And yet here I am, going along for another ride. I can see the outline of a large man leaning against the passenger side door of the car, and as I get closer, I realize it's Sam Watkins. He's a mountain of a man, and I don't know whether to shake his hand or scale him and plant a flag. Instead, I nod and climb into the back seat when he opens the door for me. Back in high school, Sam was a menace on the football field. With records for the number of tackles and sacks in a single season, he was one of the top linebackers in the state. He'd been recruited heavily and had a college scholarship all lined up until he blew out his knee at the end of his senior year. The scholarship fell through, and he was forced to take a job at his father's grocery store. 20 years later, he is as lean and muscular as he was 2 decades earlier on the gridiron, a shock of blonde hair topping off his massive frame. When the grocery store closed in the wake of the invasion, he was the perfect man for the authority, strong and loyal, but not too bright. Hernandez slides in behind the steering wheel and slams the door, pulling out a cigarette and lighting up while Sam folds his body into the passenger seat. The engine comes alive, and we pull away, taking a right out of the parking lot, leaving the motel behind, and with it, any chance of a decent night's sleep. "So where are we going?" I ask. "Across the river," is all Hernandez says. I frown and slump back in the seat. Across the river. Now what could those alien bastards want with me?